Hi, Gemma.
Hello.
So I'm with Gemma. Hello, viewer.
Hey.
Me and Gemma have known each other for about 5 years.
I think so, yeah.
And we're here in Hackney. And we're going to have a chat. This is Meet the TM Teacher, Part 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like a follow-up.
It's a follow-up. The sequel.
It was almost 3 years. I've lost track of time, but it was a while ago. It feels like a really long time ago.
We're in Hackney, which is your patch, right?
Yeah.
So Gemma is the TM teacher for Hackney.
Yeah.
Tell me then, why do you teach?
Why do I teach?
What do you get out of it?
Why do I teach Transcendental Meditation?
Yeah.
I think the short answer when I was thinking about this is I love it so much, and there is really nothing else to do that is as worthwhile as teaching TM or as enjoyable. It is such a sweet way to spend time. It really, really is. And it's increasing all the time. And and I'm saying that as someone, I already found things that I really loved and enjoyed. Like I paint, and I get a lot out of painting and all kinds of creative things. So it's not like I didn't like what I was doing before and then I found TM and teaching TM. There's just something like, you can spend an hour with someone doing the personal instruction and you've got to know them a little bit because, you do these talks where I'm sharing the main points about TM, and then I'll do sort of little informal chats, just getting to know who it is wanting to learn. And then we get through an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then you've just got someone kind of lit up with this kind of almost surprise about where they are in terms of like how easy they found it, what kind of experience they've already had, and you can just see this excitement in them being like, all right, okay. And then following up with them over the next few days. It's what else is like that? Where else can you bring this kind of and that's something I've always been attracted to, I think, because for me, creative expression is what's keeping that spark and that aliveness and that blissfulness of life, which can get lost. It's crazy, but it does get. That's what life is. Yeah,
you get jaded.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not a coincidence. We're bombarded with a lot of negative messaging. From when I was young, I know I was very much in touch with the joyfulness of life, but very quickly it kind of,
it fades.
It fades. And I actually, I did a project about this when I was about 18 because I was wrestling with this strain of feeling like I was living in a place of worst case scenario, waking up with the impending sense of doom, and even when things are going well, there's always this kind of anticipation that things won't go well. What I mean is it's remarkable that you can go from that point of you expect life to be fun and enjoyable when you're young, and then very quickly your expectations completely shift to the point that it's just like what you think of as a good day is dramatically shifted. And anyway, my pushback, I think, has always been I've really enjoyed drawing and painting, and it would help me open up again, and I would always find that my mood would be completely lifted, and that's why I've pursued it for so long and I love it so much. And I think that was my pushback against the
fading of the
light. Jadedness,
the dimming of the inner light.
Yeah, exactly. And I've dedicated my time to keeping that going in my life, but also supporting other people. I love facilitating art and creative spaces. My background was an art teacher. I didn't enjoy teaching in conventional schools per se, not so much in alignment with my values, but then beyond that, when I started going freelance and could do things a bit more freely, it was always about that, how do we keep in touch with what touches the soul, is what it's all about. If we can't enjoy, and obviously connecting through creativity is big. If you think about, I really tapped into painting as a way of having that sense of expansion and being connected with that life flow and enjoyment. And then I found when I learnt TM that I could have that even without painting. So that thing that I was fighting for, and sometimes it took a lot of energy to have that sense of to be in that state, basically. And then with TM, you know, the twice a dayness, you just find that becomes the baseline. That's the norm. And I was like, this is what I've been looking for, and here it is. And then the natural thing is just to be like, of course you just want to share this. You just want to let people know that it's, you know, that the stress that obscures everything, it's not real, and it can shift so quickly, like the clouds can move. So that's kind of like the long answer. The short answer is there's nothing else really worth doing. And if I could really convey that, then everyone listening would stop what they're doing and
get
here straight to learning TM, maybe even just becoming TM teachers themselves, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's amazing. Wow. Was it luck that you came across TM, like when you first learnt? Or were you searching? But do you remember consciously searching for something? Because you said that, you know, painting kind of kept your inner light. I think of E.T., you know, when he thinks he's going home.
Keep the light on, please.
Yeah. So painting was doing that for you, and you said that then when you discovered TM, that did it, you know, from the inside.
Yeah.
It's just a quick, only a side question, but were you looking for something, or was it just kind of coincidence? I know there's no such thing as coincidence, but did you just come across it by accident? Quotes.
Like so many people, it's almost like the answer that everyone gives. It's like, it was the David Lynch book, Catching the Big Fish.
Really? Okay, David Lynch.
So the story goes, I had known about TM through that book for a good 5+ years. We had this book, and I was singing in a band then. Okay, another life story. Not going to go there. But we were big into David Lynch as an inspiration. We worked with a VJ who would project visuals, very kind of David Lynch inspired. And we were sharing this book, and we were really chatting about it, just being like, you know, what is this TM thing? It's very curious, you know. That book is constantly referencing Transcendental Meditation, and beyond that, you know, like the tradition that TM comes from. It drops in all these, it's very brief, you know, there's not much text on each page, and it's just really resonant. I couldn't say that I understood it, but I was like, that's something interesting. So it was on my radar. But what I was really seeking was, I was really tired of not being as effective as I wanted to be, because I'd made the step of going freelance. I was like, I'm walking away from you know, the only job I'd ever really had, which is working in schools, and it's a lot to self-generate as a freelancer. You have to be organized on so many fronts, on so many levels. You have to have that confidence to kind of work with whatever state you're in day after day. And I knew that I was going nowhere fast without something changing. I'm naturally, that's not as true. Let's say I was a habitual overthinker. It was sapping my energy. It was taking too long for me to do, I don't know, like emails, set up meetings, all these things that you have to do. So, and also my health, over worrying had got me to the point, adrenal fatigue, I've talked with you about that before. All these things were kind of colluding together. So I was putting out the kind of, I was looking for something that was how I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew what I had to do, but I didn't feel like I had the resources to do it. So in that sense, I was seeking something that was gonna, and from what I knew about TM, and I think a few things popped up, like someone who had a really positive experience helping with adrenal fatigue, someone, I can't remember who it was now, but there was this, suddenly it came back on and took the step, and best choice ever. Brilliant.
So what are the reasons that people come to learn in your experience? There's a lot of anxiety around and stuff like that.
There's a lot of anxiety around.
What are people looking for these days? What are they?
I don't know if it's to do with teaching in East London or whatever, but I feel like I seem to attract a lot of people who want to learn TM because they know that they're at some kind of pivotal change point of transition, and I think it does seem to be that there is this pattern that people are, you get a lot of creative professionals in East London, very successful, kind of smashing it in many ways, having a lot of success, but also feeling the limitations of what it's taking to both get there and maintain it. So there's, things might be going well in one sense, but then maybe the level of stress, the toll that it's taking on home life or health, it's just the sense that something is non-sustainable and that ready for a different approach and wonder and having that curiosity. Because the thing is, what's going on with TM now is quite interesting, is that there's a bit of a tipping point happening in the sense that there are so many people in the public eye who are speaking out about everything that they've gained from TM and how it supports them in so many ways. Mm-hmm. But I think what's even more powerful is, coming across people in the workplace, having like, something that comes to mind is, seem to teach a lot of people making films and editing, and, that is deadlines, long hours, massive amounts of stress, teams of people coming together, sticking with it. And inevitably I hear versions of this story that, it's all getting a bit getting tired and stressful, and someone will take themselves off and then kind of reappear all like ready to kind of solve the problems, looking all fresh. Really? And people are like, and then it's like, do you just do your 20 minutes TM?
Can I just tell you something? So last week I bumped into an old someone I taught to meditate. He's a filmmaker in Brighton, mm-hmm. and he was on a shoot in London with some hotshot director, and in was it a daily? I don't know, there's a schedule. There was 2 slots for TM.
There we go.
So the whole crew would go off and meditate. It's amazing.
Yeah. And that's it. There's nothing more. There's that. So it might not be in the just making film, but anytime you're in regular contact with someone who's just consistently buoyant in the face of stress. Mm-hmm. So there's more and more of this, and then it turns out, I meditate, and then having conversations with people. Or even better is when someone before they learnt TM, like a work colleague or a family member or something, and then you catch up with them on the other side after they've been learning or after a few months, and it's just so clear that something has massively shifted, and that they're just enjoying things a lot more. That's the key. I think that coming back to your question, what is it that people are seeking, is definitely a lot to do with stress. It's a lot to do with this kind of confusion around why do things feel so difficult, and there's kind of no end to the difficulty, and is it all worth it, and am I missing something? Like, how does it work? How do some people seem to kind of manage everything and not get so caught up in the stress? I mean, it's that word again, stress, anxiety. It's everywhere. It's good to unpack it a bit, what that actually is.
I love your phrasing, consistently buoyant in the face of stress.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay.
Because what that means is, it doesn't mean that it's just like someone is, always happy and, never having challenges. It means, you're aware that someone might be going through something that's really full on, but that they're not getting kind of really weighed down and bogged down by it. They're just going through it. It's just something to go through, and that they might, even be able to see the funny side of it, and they know that it's something. They're not defined by it. They're not over-identified with it. A big thing about anxiety, from my experience before learning TM, when I was saying I wasn't going anywhere fast, I was overthinking things, is that it's hard sometimes to separate emotion out of what you're doing. So we had a group of meditators yesterday, and this came up in conversation about how easy it is after TM to kind of flow through your to-do list, even when on the list is a bunch of things that you've been resisting doing. And we were like, why is that? Why would it be that I put off doing all these things, and then when I'm meditating regularly, suddenly I've just done everything, and it was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, kind of thing. And it's because often it's the story about what we've got to do that is clouding, or, you know, there's that emotion of the story of, oh, this thing, it's so annoying, I shouldn't have to do this, it's not really what I want to be doing, and all that resistance just gets in the way. And then when we meditate and we've released a bunch of stress and we're feeling a lot more clear, it's just something to do, and therefore we can just kind of flow through it and then quickly get on to what we do want to do. It's pretty
That's so interesting. I always have a little kind of game with myself when I'm teaching a course on the second day, which is a Monday. Almost every single course, someone says, I went through my to-do list a bit better, or I even did my to-do list. And I was like, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that sets a precedent, right? Because then you're suddenly like, things really can be easier.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it kind of wakes you up to the fact, oh yeah, this is something real. Okay.
It can be. That level of efficiency is very real. Speaking of someone who's really challenged in the organisation department,
really?
It's real, yeah.
Amazing.
I was thinking there's maybe a link, because you asked, we've touched on anxiety, and then I think you're also asking me about TM and full potential, and something came to mind about that, which is how anxiety is another way of basically being. Again, I don't know, I'm just going to say what I think it is, or what I've reflected on over the years, and what I hear is it's a kind of habitual state of fear that we get kind of on a loop with. And with that comes a kind of contraction, and we get so used to being in that state that we kind of forget that there's any other way to be. And that's a very scary thing, because we're kind of normalizing that contractual way of being, which doesn't feel good. It's really stressful. And, you know, for so many people with anxiety, myself included, when it used to be that way, you'd wake up like that. And then what's noticeable when I'm teaching people who are specifically identified, like, I got to this point with anxiety, it's out of hand.
I'm at the end of I'm about to break.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. So they've come to that point.
It's serious. Okay. It is serious. And then waking up during the courses and just being, you know, the course asks, you know, what's different day 1, day 2, day 3, and it's like, I woke up and I didn't have that level of anxiety that I've been so familiar with. And then part of where we get to with that is when we're constantly trying to make choices out of that point of fear and contraction, you can imagine the kind of choices and decisions we make. We're in that state of resistance, we're putting things off, and then things get very like compressed very easily. And then I do a lot of coaching as well, and coaching is really about getting people into that expanded state, and we do that through, you know, often we can be walking and talking and trying on different possibilities, making it feel safe to think about best outcomes, thinking about, you know, best solutions, not being restricted by current circumstances, allowing that kind of real free flow of possibility. And you notice how people's posture changes, and they're having all these kind of different ideas. There's a clear expansion. That takes a bit of effort to get to in a kind of coaching relationship or a dialogue. The beauty of TM is that you are that, you know, you come out of your 20 minutes and you are that point of expansion, and you're making your choices, your decisions from that state of being. So inevitably life starts to flow a bit more, because the choices that you make when you're feeling, you know, confident and reaching for that positive possibility are very different to the ones that you make from that contraction.
It's a state of consciousness.
It's a state of consciousness, yes. So the uniqueness, kind of, you know, what is it about TM? It's having this impact, this result so quickly. You know, whatever we're going in, for whatever reason we're wanting to learn TM, we're not having to wait, or, you know, 6 months and then hope maybe that we've got to some kind of level of skill that we can begin to start noticing. No, because every time, every single meditation, right from that first one, what's happening? We're releasing the stress. What are we experiencing? That inner pure level of pure consciousness. And what happens when we come out? Every time a little bit of that pure consciousness state of being is becoming infused into our action. Every single time. What else can, you know, you want to say what's unique about TM? This is what's unique about TM.
In a sentence, would you say? Would you say? Sorry, I don't want to put words in your head. What would you say? Could you sum up the uniqueness of TM in 3 sentences?
Probably not.
One sentence then.
It's hard not to think of a tagline. Could I just go with what came? It's like, become who you are before you were obscured by the illusion of stress. It's like,
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's such a relief to feel that you can come back to that brightness and openness and courage of the heart. All these things, they're there. They're just there. And stress is very unnatural, and yet it's everywhere, but it doesn't take much to send it on its way. That's the power of this technique.